Hi there, everyone. So I am just sharing our antitrust policy notice, as we do before every meeting starts. Today's meeting is for the education work group, and our focus is on finalizing the online training course based on feedback from Linux Foundation training. The actual document that we're editing, I've just copy pasted into the chat a link to it, and you should all be able to open it. This document is substantially complete from chapters 1 through 4 as of now. And chapter 5, the final chapter in the first half of our training course, needs some love and care. To give some reference as to what I mean, I'm just going to share the beginning of chapter 5. So Linux Foundation training was very clear that they don't like our bullet points. And for slotting in with their portfolio of courses, we need to get rid of the bullet points unless they are essential. So what we have to do is take every point that's bullet pointed right now and turn it into a paragraph, basically. How that's been done earlier, I'll just go up to chapter 4. This is the final section of chapter 4. As you can see, it's just a paragraph style until we get to the key points where you are asking questions like, who is the component distributed to? So that's the kind of heavy lifting we need to do on chapter 5. Though you yourself may be more interested in taking a look at chapters 1 through to 4 and looking at the text format and saying, does this make sense to me? Whether you're a native English speaker or a non-native English speaker, that's actually super important. We will face the fact that most of the people taking our course will be non-native English speakers. And until we have translations, we want to make sure that it's easy to understand what we have. On this call, we're expecting Balakrishna. He seems to be running a little bit late. I'll ping him and make sure he's coming in. On this call, I would suggest that we focus on going through chapter 4, having a look at it, and highlighting language where it is bad. Martin.
Hi, Shane. I have briefly looked through what is in the earlier chapters, and it looks pretty good to me. You know, a vast improvement over it was a year ago, for example. I guess I've got two questions at the moment. Do you know how this is going to be made into training content? Is it going to be text, or is it going to be, you know, a professional voiceover, or what? Because I think that potentially impacts how it's written. And I guess my second point would be, I don't really understand why you would include chapter 5. I think that fits in the next section. Although that does just push back the work. That's my opinion. Not sure if that came through, Shane, but you're now muted, so not sure. Do my questions come through okay?
I can hear you, Martin, loud and clear.
Okay, thanks, Yari.
Here I am. Even the video.
I guess, since nothing else is happening, I guess my point is not that the chapter 4 content is bad as such. It's just that I think that's more about how a program works. It's not really information background for developers and managers particularly. So I just tell people, you want to use a bit of open source, you'd come and speak to me and tell me the name, location, and what license you think it is and how you're going to use it. And that's all that matters. I don't think we need to go into much more detail apart from in this section. It fits more with me in the overall compliance process section. In fact, it's the first bit of that next section. So I kind of don't understand the decision for sticking it in this first lot of stuff. But that's my opinion.
Oh, shoot, I was muted. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize I was muted. Okay, I'm not sure how much you got, but yeah, so LF training insisted that we need chapter 5 in there to make the course long enough to publish the first half. And they were unequivocal on that. They're not going to compromise on that one. So chapter 5 being included is a bit of a stretch. It doesn't fit organically in. You'd expect it to be in the second half of the course. But they simply put their foot down on that and said we must do it. So that's why we have to go from chapters 1 through 5. LF training is going to do a special review of chapters 1 through 3 and add more comments. So the most effective thing we can do right now is to analyze the language of chapter 4 and to provide comments on whether that suits people in terms of clarity, and especially thinking about non-native English speakers to ensure they can understand it. The course will be delivered as written text at this point in time, though an audio version can and probably will be created a little later. So, I mean, organically speaking, going from rights around licensing to introduction to licenses to introduction to compliance through to key concepts for review can sort of fit together. It is a bit of a stretch to go all the way to running an open source review. That's quite a lot to put into an introduction to open source compliance. But like I said, they were very clear at LF training that they would need to have that much material as a minimum. Chapters 1 through 3 will be getting their overview. We're live editing chapter 4, hopefully now, for clarity. Chapter 5 needs to be moved from bullet points. And I need to look at every piece of chapter 5, which contains bullet point structures, and change that into paragraphs. You can assist with that if you wish, though I know it's a bit of a heavy lift. Minoji-san just pointed out the open source review chapter 5 doesn't include reference to the OpenChain policy template. Good point, Ninjoji-san, we're gonna have to add that. Where do you think it should be added? and Joji-san.
So sorry, Shane, is this intended to, it will become a bigger single course? I'm just thinking a bit more about, this chapter 5.
Yes.
If I understand the objection from that they basically want a course that's big enough, right? But I don't think that necessarily means we just go through the chapters as far as it means it's enough for them. Could we, for example, end this stuff on a brief overview of what a process would be, to make it enough content for a single standalone course? Or is this going to be separate courses like next time, or is it just going to expand? You said, I'm sorry to question the rationale.
No. Let me show you. That's a great question. I'm just going to switch the screen share over a little bit. So what LF training wants to do is take chapters 1 to 5 and have it under an introduction to open source licensing. And then take chapters 5 through 8 and label that managing open source licensing, or more details about managing open source licensing. Now, in our case, chapters 4 and 5 already include aspects of open source review. And it's chapters 5 is running the review. Chapters 1 through 5 goes all the way to running and review with that introduction course. And then chapter 6 would be end-to-end compliance, 7 pitfalls, and 8 developer guidelines. And that will be a second course, which provisionally is noted as managing open source licensing, but probably needs to be finessed because the first one already contains the basics of review. So that's basically what they want to do. Chapters 1 to 5 as an introduction to open source licensing, and then chapters 6 through 8 as more detailed aspects of end-to-end compliance management, pitfalls around licensing, and developer guidelines. In terms of how we title the courses, they're flexible. We can title them as we wish, but that's the split that they want to do, chapters 1 through 5, and then chapters 6 through 8. If we can complete chapters 1 through 5, they can release the first course, or we could say the first half of where we want to go, by December 16th at the Open Compliance Summit. So that's good news. And they said that basically they think chapters 1 through 3 are pretty much done. Chapter 4 has been given a heavy overhaul. Balakrishna, myself, I saw Rowan also added some text to it. And that leaves expansion on chapter 5 into paragraphs as a key action item. But like I said, probably now our least eyes-on chapter is chapter 4. And if we can double check the language structures there, that would help immensely. And we can expect LF training to have feedback in the next 3 to 6 days on chapters 1 through 3 to confirm that they're ready or not. Just from a holistic point of view, it would be useful if we had this ready for the Open Compliance Summit, because we'll have a strong audience from Asia, and a lot of people in China in particular are expected to begin using this course because the Chinese government has become an OpenChain certifier through CAICT, an organization under the Ministry of Trade. Actually, let me throw a question to people who aren't editing and have a moment. Chapters 1 through 5 explain the basics of intellectual property and go through to open source review. What will be the best course title for that? And then chapters 6 through 8 are about end-to-end compliance management, pitfalls, and developer guidelines. What would be the best title for that?
I think this intro to open source licensing is quite good, but the second part,
It's
I
terrible,
think we
isn't
need
it?
to, we need to think something better.
Rowan suggests, yeah, managing is a good way to talk about it, I think is what Rowan is saying. So let's take a quick look at what's over in chapters 6. 6 end-to-end. Rowan says he's a newbie here. Well, you're totally welcome. And you know, we all come from different areas. We all have different perspectives, and that's the important thing. So our chapter title needs to cover end-to-end compliance management. Compliance pitfalls, which is pretty important. Basically, that's about crashing and burning with intellectual property problems. And then developer guidelines, which is really about setting in place the structures for developers to act. In this sense, there's something about this title that needs finessing, because we've already covered the basics of managing with the chapters 4 and 5 included in the first course.
Because I think especially on chapter 6, it's more really like how to run. It's not like managing, it's more like actionable thing. So yeah. Kind of step by step, guidance basically more or less there.
Right, the end-to-end compliance management, common pitfalls, and then developer guidelines. So it's really about the implementation of process management here.
Yeah. Like implementing open source licensing management, or I don't know, like.
Yeah, that could be good. What do you guys think? Brown suggests embedding management. Yeah. Do you think that we could use a term like applying open source license management to corporations, or is that too long?
So applying open source licensing management to corporations, well, I don't know. Why not?
Stefan's unmuted.
Yeah, maybe implementing open source management.
Yeah.
About that, not only about licensing, but also about security and so on and so on.
Now we need to stay focused on the licensing part for this course though, because LF have other stuff for security. But maybe we could go implementing open source licensing management. Aha, Martin might have solved all of our problems. Let me put in what Martin's got here. So Martin has picked up implementing open source license compliance management, which does seem to be going in the right direction for us. Rowan notes that he wants to sell this to universities. Well, that sounds good. I do actually have a question about that. When it comes to working with universities and so on, if there's something specific that we need to do, please let us know, because we might make mistakes. Yeah, a good point there that if we say corporations, organizations like universities mightn't like this. Yeah, I think implementing open source license compliance management sounds pretty good. Yeah. My slight concern, but it falls under what we say in Japan as shogunai, it can't be helped, is that organically speaking, key concepts in open source review and running an open source review would fit nicely under that banner as well. But LF training wants to include that material in the introduction chapter, introduction course. Now down the line, when we have both courses working and we have the initial round of feedback, at some point we can merge these courses into a comprehensive large course. But to go live soon, they want chapters 1 to 5.
So as long as it gets implemented and we all do it and give a feedback that it's terrible to have that chapter, then they'll change.
Yes. Yes. They dug in their heels. So what we're hoping to get out of LF training at the moment is that LF training will host it on their own infrastructure rather than edX, hopefully, so that LF will issue people certificates of completion. If we host on edX, they can do the course for free, but if they want a certificate of completion, they have to pay for it, which obviously we don't really want to see in OpenChain.
Okay, but it'll still require registering to do it.
Yes.
Anyway, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yes. Though we will be putting this whole thing onto our GitHub as public domain so people can hoover it up and use it. And I'll ask LF training, whatever platform they're using internally, to give us the source material that they load into the platform. So it'll be the full thing. Okay. All I can say then is this is what we need to get cracking on. We've got the course titles now. So the chapters 1 to 5 are now an introduction to open source licensing. I'm just going to put that at the top of the document, which is absolutely superb. And then chapters at the bottom, I'm going to clearly delineate that chapters 6 onwards are a different thing entirely. We have to get chapters 1 to 5 ready. I'm going to work with Balakrishna on the particular expansion of chapter 5 into paragraphs. And if you could take the action items to continue review of chapter 4, that would be great. Next week, we expect to have a whole series of comments in chapters 1, 2, and 3 to either resolve them and say they're complete or to give us more homework to do. And with that, I will wrap up the interactive aspect of this call and hand over to you for document editing, with the apologies that I was muted for a part of this meeting and I thought I was clarifying stuff and telling you things, and there was absolutely nothing happening. Very sorry about that. All right, handing over to everyone for the document. For people who are new in the chat, I've just posted the link again, and I'm going to switch off the live part of this call at this time. Thank you all, and let's get this done. We're very close, and it would be wonderful to have chapters 1 to 5 out as an introduction to open source license compliance for December 16th. Raun asked a question for Jari. Is the OSPO Alliance related to Moss Labs? By the way, Jari, I didn't know OSPO Zone. I'm going to have to check that out too.
Oh yeah, this OSPO Alliance is basically fairly new thingy, and it's mainly for like non-profits. So, and that's why I just put it out because Rowan mentioned the universities. So and I think they have had just a couple of meetings so far. So it's quite new thing. And members, they have some like big names there as well, like supporters, but mainly the founders are non-profits, as you see.
Oh, wow. Eclipse and Open Forum Europe, OW2. I'm actually a General Assembly member of Open Forum Europe and one of the management committees. So technically, I should know about this.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And it's good to see a lot of our friends in there that are working on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been, I think, on 2 or 3 of their calls. And yeah, I think there's some sort of overlap with the to-do group.
Yeah.
But I think they are, complementing each other. And they have been like to-do group, like Anna has been there on some of the call, like presenting to-do group for this alliance as well. So I think they are getting in line, between each other as well.
That's very cool. And, I must say that one of the good things with to-do group, and just in case anyone on the line doesn't know what to do, is that to-do groups kind of started as, okay, Stefan's out, he's got another meeting. Thanks for taking an action item to have a look at it. It's really appreciated. So to-do group started in Silicon Valley, and for many years, most of the meetings and membership was Silicon Valley, but now Anna, I think she's based in Madrid, and she's the program manager of this, and she's doing a great job as reaching out in Europe. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that she's joining those calls for the OSPO zone. And certainly I'm talking with Anna as well about how we collaborate with OpenChain.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's head off. Comments on the document, super valuable. Balakrishna, by the way, sent me a message. He's broke down and he's at the side of a road somewhere in Bangalore, so he couldn't make it. He's dealing with that. He will be here next week as we go through it. Jari, thanks very much, Round. It's great to have you here. Usually our meetings are slightly less chaotic because I'm not muted. And we are also in an unusual situation where we've been hitting this course on and off for many months. And Balakrishna had to pause it for a while. He was away for a few months. He's our chair of this committee. But we've also had the issue that we keep finessing it and we say we're happy with this. And we go to LF training and they're like, nope. And they send us more homework. So we have slightly different visions. We want something really compact and quick. They want something that's more comprehensive, and we're trying to meet in the middle here. Okay, guys, take care. Great weekend. Be well. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Jari. Thank you, Ron. And talk soon.